Oh, Dad, oh, Dad.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, I thought I'd tell you a story of a soldier and death. A soldier served God and the great Tsar for 25 horrific years, earned 3 dry biscuits, and set off to walk his way home. On his walk he became tired, so he sat on a log, opened his pack, and ate the first of his biscuits. While he sat there enjoying the view, he spotted an old beggarman calling out to some swans. To the soldier's surprise, the swans swam to the shore and walked into the old beggar's sack. The soldier was intrigued by what he had seen and decided to follow him, so the soldier picked up his pack and pursued the beggar. After an hour of walking, the beggar stopped off at the bottom of a hill and released one of the swans from the sack. The soldier was at the top of the hill at this time and watched the beggar kill, pluck, and eat one of the swans. Seeing this got our soldier hungry, so he opened up his pack and ate his second biscuit. Once the beggar had finished his meal, he swung the sack over his shoulder and continued his journey. The soldier at the top of the hill waited till the beggar was far enough away, then continued his pursuit. When midnight fell, the soldier was exhausted from his pursuit of the beggar, but he was determined to discover the mysteries of the magical sack. After about half an hour of walking, the beggar finally stopped to rest, much to the soldier's satisfaction. When the beggar had finally set up his camp, he looked up and called to some apples at the top of the tree, "Hey apples, get in my sack!" And once he had said those words, the apples flew off the tree and landed straight in the sack. The soldier watched this with amazement. He finally knew how the magical sack worked. But at the sight of those apples, he became hungry once again, and so he went into his pack and pulled out his third and final biscuit. When the soldier had finished his biscuit, he looked over at the beggar, who was enjoying his second swan of the day. The soldier watched this with anger as the beggar gobbled up an entire swan. The soldier whispered to himself, "How is this fair? I served in the army for 25 years, and what do I have to show for it? 3 rotten dry biscuits, and they're now all gone in a single day. And look at him, a man that's never done a day's work in his life, eating swan, all due to that sack of his. He doesn't deserve that sack, but I do. Yes, I should have it, and I will." So the soldier waited till the beggar was fast asleep, and slowly crept towards his camp, and as quiet as a mouse, he grabbed the sack and scuttled away. He ran and ran and ran till he was sure that no one had followed him, and then he screamed with happiness, "Yes! I got it! I got it! I got it!" He was so happy that he yelled into the sky and span around in circles for 10 minutes until he became dizzy and had to sit down. He then leant on a tree, curled up nice and tight with the sack, and fell fast asleep. It was not until late the next morning that he was awoken by a man hitting him with a stick. The soldier slowly opened his eyes and was shocked to find that his awakener was the beggar man. He very slyly, without the beggar noticing, placed the sack behind his back and turned towards the old beggar and asked, "What reason do you have for awakening me?" "Something of mine was stolen last night while I slept. Something very dear to me, and I want it back." "Well, I'm afraid I don't know anything about a theft, sorry to say. May I ask, what was it that was stolen from you?" "It was a sack." "A sack?" "Yes, a sack, but no ordinary sack, a magic sack. Whatever I wanted, I could just call it into my sack, and it would fly into it. I don't know what I shall do without it." Who would steal such a thing from an old man? After hearing how sad the man was for the loss of his sack, the soldier stood up to comfort him. But as he did, the sack, hidden behind his back, fell to the ground for all to see. The soldier looked at it, and then at the old beggarman, who looked quite enraged at the soldier. In the spur of the moment, the soldier quickly grabbed his sword to ward off the beggar, but at the same time the beggar dived at the soldier, and they both stumbled to the ground. The soldier pushed the beggar off him and jumped to his feet, ready for another attack. But after a few seconds, the soldier realized that the beggar was not moving, and then to his shock, he noticed that his sword was covered in blood. The soldier quickly dropped to the beggar's side and rolled him over, but it was too late, as he was already dead. The soldier was shocked by what he had done and turned to run away, but just before he ran off, he turned around and noticed the sack still lying on the ground. He thought for a second about leaving it, but soon decided there was no point in leaving it now after what had happened. So he slowly circled around the dead beggar, picked up the sack and ran off into the forest away from his terrible deed. We do not know for how long the soldier ran for, but by the time he stopped it was night again, and he was exhausted. He spotted a stream to his left, which he slowly walked towards, and once he was there, he was about to take a drink when he saw his hands were covered in blood. He dropped both his hands into the water and started frantically cleaning them. And then he remembered his sword. So he pulled it out and put it into the water and started to clean it as well, only to cut himself and cover it in even more blood. The soldier sat there for over an hour, trying to get rid of every scrap of blood, hoping that it would wash away his crimes, when he was suddenly knocked on the head, and then blackness consumed him. When the soldier awoke, he found himself surrounded by horrific little demons, speaking to one another and cackling in the most horrific of manners. Suddenly, one of them spun its head towards him and cried out, "Hey boss, look! He's finally got up!" Then, to the soldier's surprise, the ugliest, fattest, most disturbing being the soldier had ever seen walked up to him. It pushed its face right up towards the soldiers and started to smell him, which disgusted the soldier as its breath was horrendous. Then the monstrous beast stood up and called out, "Hey boys, looks like we're gonna have a treat tonight!" At that point all the demons started laughing, and the soldier realized that he was in great danger of being eaten. He quickly looked around to see if there was anything he could use to escape, but all he could see was a pack of cards on a table. But then he had a thought and quickly said, No, you can't eat me just yet." "Nah, and why is that?" asked the big demon. You should at least give me a chance to win my freedom. How about a game of cards?" "What do you have that's worth gambling over?" "Well, I thought my life would be enough." "But we could take your life right now. What's the point of us gambling it when we already have it?" Yeah, agreed all the little demons. "Well, what about my sack?" "What? This old thing isn't worth a single penny. Why would we want it?" Well, what you don't know is that it is no ordinary sack. It's a magic sack. If you want something, all you have to do is call it into the sack, and it will simply go into it. "Really? Show us then, just to make sure you're not lying." So the soldier picked up the sack and looked around and spotted a loaf of bread. So he simply called out, "Hey, bread, get in my sack!" And in a quick flash the loaf of bread darted across the room and straight into the sack. The demons' faces were a mixture of shock and awe, but with a hint of pleasure in the big demon's eyes, as he now saw something worth gambling over. "Very well then," said the big demon. "We will gamble You for your sack and your life. Shall we begin? Wait,